In distant times, when kings built empires and the heavens bore witness to the prayers of the righteous, there was a land marked by oppression and hope. There, God's people lived in exile, sustaining their faith amid adversity. In the midst of this scenario, Daniel emerges. A man of pure heart, of upright soul, who, though surrounded by the riches and vanities of the palace, chose to live a simple life, devoted to prayer and justice. His days were guided by an unrelenting pursuit of God. His eyes gazed toward the horizon, dreaming of deliverance, yearning for the fulfillment of divine promises. And even in the face of persecution, his faith never wavered. It was on a silent night, under the timid glow of the stars, that Daniel received something that would change his life forever. A heavenly vision, a voice that echoed not in his ears but deep within his soul. God was calling him to be a living witness of His glory, even among the mighty of the earth. But Daniel, as human as anyone else, felt the weight of doubt. Who was he for such a mission? A simple man, fragile before kings. How could he bear such responsibility? The shadows of fear tried to invade his heart, whispering that he was not capable, that he was not worthy. Restless, Daniel sought answers. His feet carried him to forgotten temples, his eyes scoured the words of ancient prophets, and his knees bent more times than ever before. He spoke with wise men, cried out to the heavens for signs, sought guidance in the scriptures and in the silence of meditation. Every answer seemed to point in the same direction. Yes, God had indeed chosen him. Yet still, the chill of uncertainty ran down his spine, while his heart alternated between fear and hope. Then, in the middle of the night, a supernatural peace flooded Daniel's soul. The doubts fell silent. The fears dissipated. And with tears streaming down his face, he stood, lifted his arms to the heavens, and declared, "Here I am, Lord. Let your will be done in me." Daniel understood that it was not about his strength, but about God's strength working through him. His mission was sealed. His life, fully surrendered into the hands of the Almighty. And with unwavering faith, he prepared for what was to come. By accepting the calling, Daniel found himself walking a path surrounded by thorns. Suspicious glances from the king's officials, whispers in the shadows, veiled threats, everything seemed to conspire against his faith. Yet still, he stood firm. He refused to bow before idols. He refused to betray his conscience. And with each challenge, his faith grew stronger, like iron forged in fire. Daniel knew, his battle was not against men but against spiritual forces trying to extinguish the light of truth. But God never abandons those who seek Him with a sincere heart. Along the way, Daniel found allies. Men and women who, even in silence, shared the same faith, the same hope. People who, discreetly, strengthened his steps, offering words of encouragement, opening doors, or simply bowing their knees in prayer for him. Each encounter, each new friend, was a reminder that God was preparing everything. No one walks alone when they are in the hands of the Creator. But evil is cunning. And wherever he went, traps were set. False advice, promises of power, offers to abandon his faith in exchange for earthly privileges. Daniel listened, refused, and prayed. The enemy disguised himself as an ally, a friend, even as an angel of light. But Daniel, strengthened by prayer and divine discernment, resisted. He knew there was no greater glory than remaining faithful. He knew it was worthless to gain the world but lose his soul. Yet not everything was immediate victory. Bitter days came. Days of tears, goodbyes, and pain. Daniel saw people he loved being taken away, persecuted, humiliated. He felt the heavy weight of suffering. In his prayers, he asked where God was amid so much injustice. And in the silent answers from heaven, he understood that even in pain, God is at work. That even in suffering, there is growth. And that no tear shed out of love for the Lord is ever wasted. Then, in the midst of his prayers, God began to reveal grand things. Hidden secrets, mysteries about the present and the future. Daniel saw empires rise and fall. He heard promises of redemption. He understood that his mission went beyond his own time. That what he was living was part of an eternal plan, something much greater than his own life. His faith was renewed. His spirit strengthened. And his commitment to God became even more unshakable. The trials did not cease. On the contrary, they intensified. But now, Daniel was a different man. Not because he had become stronger, but because he knew, with certainty, that God fought for him. Every challenge was faced with prayer. Every persecution, with praise. Every threat, with trust in the God who never fails. And so, his faith became an unbreakable wall, a firm rock in the midst of the storm. And then, the day arrived. Accused, slandered, condemned. The sentence was cruel, to be thrown into the lion's den. His enemies smiled, believing they had finally defeated him. But when night fell, something supernatural happened. The lions, who should have devoured him, remained silent. God sent his angels. And in the silence of the den, Daniel rested, protected by the mighty hand of the Most High. The impossible became reality. The miracle unfolded. And an entire nation would witness it. The next morning, the king, anxious and regretful, rushed to the den. His trembling voice echoed, "Daniel, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" And from within the darkness, a calm voice responded, "Long live the king. My God sent his angel, and he shut the lions' mouths." In that moment, the spiritual battle was won. The victory was not just Daniel's. It belonged to all who believe in the power of faith. The king ordered that Daniel be lifted out of the den. And to everyone's amazement, not a single scratch was found on him. His enemies, those who had plotted his downfall, were then exposed. God's justice was revealed. The king proclaimed a decree that everyone in the kingdom should honor the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, who delivers, saves, and performs signs and wonders. Faith was restored. Hope was rekindled. The name of God was exalted. From that day on, Daniel's story spread across lands and generations. His courage inspired kings, priests, children, and elders. He became an eternal symbol of faithfulness and trust in God. His legacy was not merely in words but in actions that transformed hearts. Daniel proved to the world that whoever remains faithful to God, even when everything seems lost, will never be alone, and will always witness the victory that comes from heaven. At the end of his journey, Daniel was honored not only by men but, above all, by God. He lived his days in peace, surrounded by honor, wisdom, and respect. But his greatest reward was not in this world. His soul was lifted up, receiving from the very hands of the Creator the crown of eternal life. Daniel entered the promised rest, hearing the words every faithful servant longs to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord." And so, the story of Daniel is not just a tale from the past. It is an invitation. A calling for all of us. That even when the world threatens us, even when pits open at our feet, we must never stop trusting. May Daniel's faith inspire your life. May his courage strengthen you. And never forget, God still shuts the mouths of lions. God still protects those who seek Him. And the victory will always belong to those who trust in the Lord.